Uh, Good afternoon to Dr. Nurul Aswa and our fellow friends. We are Today we are going to present our statistic project with the title of Study the Effectiveness of Online Teaching Among Students. Next slide. Our group members include Kishan, Edwin, Kyu Suning, Kwan Jin Yung, Darwina, and Lee Cheng Ji. Next slide. As for introduction, as the technology grows and the online communication becomes more accessible, uh, students tend to study, work, and also handle family life all at the same time. So universities are starting to provide flexible learning mode, which is online learning. Face-to-face classes nowadays are frequently replaced by online classes, especially during the pandemic. The purpose of this study is to understand the efficiency of online teaching students among students and undergraduates. Next slide. The problem statement. The issue started arising as UTHM converted to a new mode of learning during the pandemic. The students were required um, to switch to online mode, which where they started to face new problems such as network connection and lack of technology to continue online learning. So we conducted a survey using Google Form to understand the preferences of online learning and the efficacy of online teaching among students. Next slide. The objective of uh, this project is to investigate the sufficiency of equipment requirements for online learning, such as access to proper technology and internet for students, to investigate the teaching methods and quality of online learning mode, to investigate the relationship between the communication of students and teacher and students among their peers during online lessons. I'll I'll pass to my friend.
Thank you, Davina. Good afternoon, Dr. Aswa. My name is Kyusune, and I will be presenting for the hypothesis slides. Next slide. As you can see, and is mentioned by Davina just now, our topic is the effectiveness of online teaching among students. And in this project, we are going to be using the hypothesis testing method. Hypothesis testing is a way to test an assumption to see if there's a meaningful result based on a population parameter. And through this, first of all, we have the null hypothesis, H0, which is stated as an assumption for the survey. After the null hypothesis is initially the accepted fact, but this null hypothesis needs to be tested. After we have tested the null hypothesis, we need to decide whether we should reject or do not reject the null hypothesis. If the null hypothesis is rejected, then the alternate hypothesis instead will be accepted. If not, the null hypothesis is retained to be the accepted statement. Next slide. I will pass it to my friend. Thank you.
So next is the methodology part. So methodology shows us the work progress of our team, and the very first task that we did was to design questions for questionnaires. This questionnaire was carried out in Google Form, and all the questions were divided into 4 consecutive parts, which are into 4 sections. The next, what we did was gather data from respondents. We collected our data by sharing our Google Form links through WhatsApp with other respondents. And the next part was presenting data. The data collected from the Google Form responses were then presented in a graphical manner. And the next part was data calculation. We calculated the mean, variance, and standard deviation, which is part of our calculation process. And the next one was data analysis. Data analysis was done by the SPSS system to get an outcome from the responses that we got through Google Form. That is all from me. Thank you.
Okay, so for the result part, the first part is the data preparation. So data preparation is an iterative agile process for exploring, combining, cleaning, and transforming raw data into curated data sets for self-service data integration. data science, data discovery, and BI or analytics. So these are all our data from compiled from our questionnaire. Okay, so next slide. Next is the data screening. So data screening means checking data for errors and fixing for removing these errors. So the first picture, the part one is checking the data for the gender, age, and the current modalities of classes, and yeah. For part two are for the questions of the environment impact questions. Next. For part three is the learning method impact questions, and for the part four is the relationship impact questions. Next is the normality analysis, which is skewness or kurtosis. Right, so normality analysis is used to determine if a data set is well modeled by a normal distribution and to compute how likely it is for a random variable underlying the data set to be normally distributed. So this part one on the top left, and part two is on the left hand side, the right hand side, sorry. Then part three is on the bottom left. Next slide. Yeah, next. Thank you.
So yeah, so I'm going to present the reliability analysis. So first, for the environment impact, the strength of the association of is moderate because the the data we get is more than 0.6. And second one is at the section learning method impact. For the part one, we getting lower than 0.6. So we delete two of the question and we get 0.6, and we get the strength of the association become moderate. And then for the section relationship impact, we're getting 0.785. So the strength of association is good. And then for the descriptive analysis, in this section, we're giving the means, the standard deviation, median, mode, standard deviation, standard error of means, variance, range, minimum, maximum, and sum in this descriptive analysis. So we can getting all the data in this all these calculations. So this is the part one and part two, and part three and four. Part five is based on the section, which is the section environment impact, impact of learning method, and the influence of the relationship between classmate and teacher. So for the correlationship, all the correlationship between the each of the section is a high positive correlationship because it is between 0.7 until 0.9. And then in the simple linear regressions, we're getting for the learning method depends on the environment impact. We're getting the correlation is 0.7, and the regression square is about 52%. And for the environments, we're getting 7.9%. For the correlation, we're getting 0.889, and for the regression square, we're getting 79%.
Lastly, I'll present about the conclusion part. So based on our questionnaire, we have received 50 responses and also conducted a hypothesis testing through this survey. Based on the responses for our question A, we found out that the majority of responses had either answered agree or strongly agree. Hence, we can conclude that the null hypothesis is rejected, which means the p-value is less than or equal to the significance level. That's all from us. Thank you.